If you're a dude, you almost certainly have a deep longing for love, a deep craving and instinctively programmed desire to be with someone with whom you can share sexual, physical, and emotional intimacy. But if you're like a lot of dudes today, you have given up on ever finding this. You feel cheated. You feel like you're getting the short end of the stick. You show up to life, you do what you're supposed to do, but you're not getting what you're supposed to get. In order to understand why, we need to go look at the instincts that drive love, the instincts that drive relationships, and how they are presented in the modern world. But if we do that, if you do understand the instincts that drive love and how they are presented in the modern world, you actually have a fighting chance to create love, to understand the process and replicate the process, the ancient process, but modified for a modern world. And that can help you come closer to actually being able to find love. The first thing we need to understand is that all relationships are transactional. All relationships are transactional. Friendships are transactional. Business relationships are transactional. Romantic relationships are transactional. But they're not transactional in the conscious sense, in the economic sense, where you go to Starbucks, you look at the menu, you look at the prices, you compare what you want, and then you make a transaction, you pay your money, and you get your coffee. It's not like that. It's more instinctive, it's more intuitive, and the word transaction is more like a metaphor. A better model to understand romantic relationships is the idea of co-evolution. Two completely different life forms that have an overlapping sense of selfishness. They have a mutual benefit where they both get their needs met by joining teams, metaphorically. The best example is bees and flowers. The bee goes into the flower to get the nectar. But while the bee is inside the flower getting the nectar, the little hooks on the side of the bee pick up the pollen. So when they go to the next flower and get more nectar, they drop off the pollen. And they cross-pollinate the flowers while they're getting the nectar. So from the bee's perspective, it thinks it's getting free nectar, but it's actually helping the flower cross-pollinate itself. From the flower's perspective, it thinks it's getting some weird-looking striped robot to cross-pollinate it, but it's actually giving away free nectar. So both do this thing. They think they're benefiting themselves, but in the act of benefiting themselves, they're actually helping the other team out, the other person out, the other entity out. This is called co-evolution, and there are tons of examples of this in nature. And a good model to see male and female relationships is through co-evolution. They both get their selfish needs met, but in the act of doing this, they both get their own needs met. They help each other out at the same time. So what is the transaction between males and females? And how can we understand this and reference this model in the modern world to find true love? Well, what do women need? What do women get out of this transaction? They get food, they get protection, they get taken care of. Because when a baby is born, it is extremely expensive. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, and she doesn't have time to go out hunting. She's got to take care of the kid. So women evolved instincts to be attracted to dudes who take care of them. Every day, they provide food, they provide shelter, they provide protection. Now, what does the man get? The man gets all the wonderful feelings of love and response. The man provides food, the woman provides feelings. This is why men are much more romantic than women. Because when a man thinks of a relationship, a man thinks of all the feelings he can get in a relationship. He thinks of all the feelings he will get in exchange for what he provides to the woman. When a woman thinks of a relationship, she's more interested, or rather her instincts are more interested or focused on what she gets out of the relationship. What she gives is automatic. Just like the flower automatically gives the nectar and the bees automatically give the cross-pollination. This is not happening consciously. None of this is conscious, but this is the transaction. Men provide things that women need, and women provide love in response. Love, affection, sex, and this is the implicit transaction that is programmed into our instincts. But the problem is clear because today in the modern world, women don't need to be taken care of. Women can make their own money. But this is only one of the things that they really need. If you listen to women talk about why they cheated, why they got divorced, and why women initiate most divorces, it's because their needs are not being taken care of. So women have this instinctive programmed need to always be taken care of. And it's not like take care of her at the beginning of the relationship and then turn it into set and forget mode. It needs to happen continuously. It's like if you went to Starbucks and you bought a coffee and you thought, oh, I can get free coffee from now on. You need to pay every time you go to Starbucks. So when you have a relationship, you need to maintain this transaction. The more you provide for her what she needs, the more she'll automatically and instinctively provide love in return. So if you want love from a woman, you have to first figure out what she needs beyond financial provisioning, and she will automatically respond with love. The problem is there's a whole bunch of different women today with a whole bunch of different needs. Back in the days of hunter-gatherers, every woman wanted the same thing, a dude to kill an animal and share half the meat with her. So you didn't have to really talk to women to figure out what they needed. But today the world is much different. It's much more complex. It's much more complicated. So it's the job as a man to sort for the right woman that can reciprocate whatever you have to offer. And that's your mission in life, so to speak. If you want a romantic relationship, if you want to find love, this is how you get it. You take your offer, you take whatever you have to offer, you take your skills, and you test them on different women to see how well they reciprocate. This is the most important way to qualify a woman, to see how well she reciprocates. Because under the model of the transactional model of relationship, you give something, she gives something back. But if you give something and she doesn't give something back, if she doesn't reciprocate, then she's disqualified. So it's your job as a dude to take your skills, to take your masculine frame, to take your strong boundaries and test them on different women to see who reciprocates. If you start to ask her questions in a conversation and she's asking you questions back, that's a very, very good sign. But if you start a conversation and you start asking her questions and she doesn't reciprocate with questions about you, that's a bad sign. She's disqualified. Next one. That's your goal, to build your masculine frame, to set a strong set of boundaries, to build your communication skills, to find out what she wants, give it to her, and so she will automatically reciprocate with love. This is kind of like sales. If you think of in terms of transactions, it's a lot easier to wrap your mind around. It's a lot less confusing. It's a lot less complicated. When you're selling something, you find people that want what you have and are willing to pay you money for that. The same goes with finding love, to create love. To find a woman that wants what you have and will automatically reciprocate with love. It's a sorting process. It's a complicated sorting process, but it's not a mystery. You have more agency than you think. It's really up to you. She can't reciprocate unless you go first and provide value. So you need to get out there. You need to get out in the world and sort women by how well they reciprocate. When you sort women by how well they reciprocate, you will lose a lot of your social anxiety because you won't have this idea that there's this thing called love that women can give it to you and you're helpless whether or not you can get it. It'll shift your mind into thinking that love is something that you can create for yourself through women or through the right woman. Anybody can do this. Anybody can understand how powerful it is to shift your mindset, to understand the transactional, reciprocal nature of love and go out and create it at will. This gives you a ton of agency. Because you now understand this, because you understand the transactional nature of relationships, you can create it at will, and it's better to think in terms of transactions because you see transactions everywhere in nature. Even two atoms, when they get together to make a molecule, they're both benefiting metaphorically from the process. And you'll find this everywhere. Love is no different. Continuous providing what she needs, what she wants, and continuous receiving of love in response. This is the law of nature. This is the law of human nature. The more you understand this, the more you do this, the more you start to see women in terms of curiosity. What do they want? Are they willing to accept what I have in reciprocal for love? Then that's a much easier way to get rid of social anxiety. The more you become curious about what other people want, the more you can start to test them to see how well you can provide what you have, to see if it matches what they want, the more you'll understand how elegant this model is. And this will lead to a lot of stunning realizations that you can create relationships with a lot of people, because most people in the world today are not getting their needs met. Most people have unfulfilled desires. Most people want to be listened to. Most people need to be listened to. Most people need to be heard. Most people need to have their emotional needs fulfilled. And you can provide that. And it's just a matter of finding the right woman. Any recent fantasies you've had about falling in love with the ideal woman can be realized if you operate through this transactional model that tests her for her ability to reciprocate love to you in exchange for what you give to her. People that understand this have a much easier time finding love. Just like salespeople who understand the transactional model of everything have a lot easier time making a lot of money because they lead with what does the customer want, and then they provide that and they make a lot of money. Love is the same way, but it's emotional rather than financial, but it's the same model. The more you understand this, the easier it is to start conversations with women. The easier it is to start conversations with gorgeous women just to see how well they reciprocate. You're no longer asking her for anything, so there's no chance of getting rejected. You're just offering what you have to see how well she can reciprocate. And once you begin to truly experience conversationally, you'll start to feel a huge sense of agency. And so the path to love is very clear. Number one is build and continue to build a masculine frame. Have a huge ambition for your life. Number two, set clear boundaries. Always make yourself scarce. Scarce with your presence, scarce with your time. And two, always test women. Share a little bit about yourself, ask them about themselves, and see how well they reciprocate during the conversation. And then find someone who reciprocates well, someone that you're compatible with, and that's how you find love. That's how you create love. It is totally within your power. So get out there and find the woman of your dreams. If you got any comments, let me know below. If you'd like to learn more about how you can improve your conversational skills so you can more readily find love in the modern world, check out the links below. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.